Every day, your mind makes thousands of decisions. What to eat, who to trust, what to believe. Most of them feel deliberate, as if you're in full control. But beneath that illusion of free will, there's something else pulling the strings. A set of invisible mental shortcuts that quietly decide for you. They are called cognitive biases, and they shape every thought, every belief, every action. Imagine your mind as a vast control room. Inside, billions of signals arrive every second. Sounds, colors, emotions, memories. If you had to consciously process them all, your brain would collapse under its own weight. So instead, evolution built shortcuts. Tiny mental programs that help you make decisions fast. They are efficient, yes, but they are also flawed. They filter reality through emotions, habits, and beliefs. Cognitive biases are not mistakes in logic. They are adaptations designed to keep you alive in a world that used to be far more dangerous. They helped your ancestors decide whether to run or fight, trust or hide, eat or starve. But in the modern world, these same biases distort truth, shape our beliefs, and quietly manipulate our choices, from politics and relationships to the way we see ourselves. Let's look closer at the first bias, one that rules them all: confirmation bias. It's the mind's way of protecting its existing beliefs. Once your brain accepts an idea as true, it begins to filter reality around it, accepting information that confirms the idea and rejecting everything that doesn't. It's like a psychological bodyguard that shields your ego from being wrong. You see it everywhere, in social media, where people follow voices that echo their opinions, in politics, where facts are bent to fit emotions, even in relationships, where we notice only the traits that confirm our first impression. The brain isn't searching for truth. It's searching for comfort. It would rather be consistent than correct. When you understand confirmation bias, you begin to see how fragile truth really is. Every belief you hold, every conviction you defend, is built on selective perception. The world you see isn't the world as it is. It is the world as your mind allows you to see it. The second bias flows naturally from the first, the anchoring effect. Imagine being asked whether the tallest tree in the world is more or less than 1,000 feet. Then you're asked to guess its actual height. Even if you know it's shorter, your answer will unconsciously gravitate toward that number. That's anchoring. The first piece of information you receive becomes a mental reference point, shaping all later judgments. Anchoring is powerful because it hides in plain sight. It's in every negotiation, every sale, every choice you make. The first price you hear, the first opinion you read, the first impression you form, all of them become mental anchors, quietly pulling your thoughts in their direction. Marketers use it, politicians exploit it, and your brain, trying to simplify the chaos of choice, accepts it without resistance. You may think you're making an independent judgment, but in truth, you're just adjusting around the first number your mind latched onto. The third bias is subtler, yet even more dangerous: the availability heuristic. It's the brain's lazy way of measuring probability. Instead of analyzing data, it simply asks, can I recall an example of this happening? If yes, it must be common. If not, it must be rare. That's why people fear plane crashes more than car accidents, even though cars kill far more people. Plane crashes are dramatic, emotional, and covered endlessly by the media, so the brain recalls them easily. Car accidents are routine, invisible. The mind mistakes vividness for frequency. Emotion becomes evidence. This bias shapes your fears, your beliefs, and your worldview. It's why we overestimate dangers that are spectacular but rare, and underestimate threats that are silent but constant. It's why investors panic when the market drops, but ignore slow structural risks. It's why we remember tragedies more than patterns. The availability heuristic was once useful. In the wild, remembering danger was essential to survival. But in a world flooded by information, it turns perception into distortion. The more something appears in your feed, the more real it feels, even if it's false. These three biases, confirmation, anchoring, and availability, form the first half of the mental code that runs your decisions. They create shortcuts, but also blind spots. They save energy, but steal truth. Yet, what's truly fascinating is that even knowing these biases exist doesn't free you from them. The mind doesn't stop being biased just because you've read about bias. In fact, it often uses that knowledge to reinforce its own illusion of control, a phenomenon known as the bias blind spot. You can see the bias in others, but rarely in yourself. And so, even as you listen to these words, your brain is filtering them, accepting what feels right, ignoring what feels threatening, and anchoring meaning where it feels safe. Understanding your mind means watching it in motion, catching it in the act of rewriting reality to fit its story. Every decision you make is a negotiation between logic and instinct, between reason and emotion. Cognitive biases are not your enemies. They are ancient algorithms, doing their best to keep you alive in a world far more complex than they were built for. But to master them, you must first see them. There's a strange comfort in believing that we are rational beings, that our thoughts are guided by reason, that our choices come from logic, that we are somehow in control. But the mind has its own secret architecture, hidden mechanisms that shape perception long before awareness catches up. The fourth bias is one of the most deceptive, the Dunning-Kruger effect. It reveals a paradox. The less you know, the more confident you feel. It's a cruel twist of human psychology. When people lack knowledge in a subject, they also lack the ability to recognize their own ignorance. So they overestimate their competence. Meanwhile, those who truly understand a topic often doubt themselves, aware of how much they don't know. The Dunning-Kruger effect isn't just about intelligence. It's about awareness. The more you learn, the more you realize the complexity of truth. And that realization can feel uncomfortable. It's easier to live in the illusion of certainty than in the ocean of doubt. This bias rules public debates, social media, and even science itself. The loudest voices are rarely the wisest. They are simply the most unaware of their own limits. The internet amplifies this effect to a global scale, creating echo chambers of overconfidence where everyone feels like an expert and no one questions their assumptions. But awareness is not hopeless. Recognizing the Dunning-Kruger effect in yourself is the first step toward humility and true learning. Wisdom begins not in knowing more, but in realizing how much you can be wrong. The fifth bias is loss aversion. It's one of the deepest emotional circuits in the human brain, older than reason, stronger than logic. The mind hates losing. In fact, studies show that losing something feels about twice as painful as gaining the same thing feels good. That's why people cling to bad investments, toxic relationships, or outdated beliefs. The pain of loss paralyzes the will to change. Imagine you have to choose between two options. One guarantees you $100, the other gives you a 50% chance to win $200. Mathematically, they're equal, but emotionally, most people choose the safe one because the fear of losing feels heavier than the hope of winning. Loss aversion shapes the economy, politics, and our daily lives. It's why we fear change, even when it's necessary. It's why we avoid risk, even when the reward is worth it. The mind evolved to survive scarcity, not to navigate abundance. And so it clings, protects, defends. Understanding this bias can free you from emotional traps. It allows you to see where fear hides behind logic, where comfort disguises itself as wisdom. Finally, we arrive at the sixth bias, perhaps the most fundamental one, the hindsight bias, the illusion that everything was predictable after it has already happened. When we look back on events, a breakup, a failure, a success, our mind rewrites the story. It convinces us that we knew it all along. But in truth, we didn't. We simply forgot how uncertain we once were. The mind hates randomness. It seeks order, patterns, meaning, so it edits the past to make it make sense. This bias gives comfort. It creates a world that feels coherent, where everything happens for a reason, but it also kills curiosity. Because if you believe you knew it all along, you stop asking why. History is rewritten by hindsight. We tell stories of genius, destiny, and inevitability, but behind every triumph were thousands of accidents, doubts, and fragile decisions. Reality is messy. The mind just prefers clean narratives. And so these 6 biases, confirmation, anchoring, availability, Dunning-Kruger, loss, aversion, and hindsight, form a kind of hidden code, a silent operating system inside your consciousness. They are not flaws in your design, they are your design. But here's the paradox. Once you see the code, you gain a small moment of freedom. Awareness doesn't erase bias, but it weakens its grip. Each time you pause before reacting, question before assuming, doubt before deciding, you reclaim a fraction of control from the ancient circuits that run your brain. Understanding your mind is not about conquering it. It's about observing it, seeing its patterns, its fears, its shortcuts. The path to clarity isn't about deleting bias, but dancing with it consciously. Because in the end, what makes us human is not our logic, but our attempt to rise above it. We are not rational creatures. We are meaning-making creatures. We see the world not as it is, but as we need it to be. And yet, within that illusion lies a spark, the ability to notice the illusion itself. That awareness is the first step toward real understanding. So next time you make a decision, big or small, ask yourself, is this really me deciding, or just my bias pretending to be me? The answer might not be comfortable, but it will be real. If this made you question the way your mind works, don't stop here. There's an entire universe inside your head waiting to be decoded. Subscribe to MindDecode HQ, where we explore the hidden architecture of thought, one illusion at a time. Because the more you understand your mind, the less it controls you.